So very good morning friends. This video will be more handy for those candidates who are giving their exams in June 26 and also those who are giving their exam December 25. Do watch this video after your exams are over. So if you see this is CRV was a mixed bag. I won't tell it is extremely difficult, but if you see there were few questions. For example, I was specifically emphasizing that steps involved in the process of merger and acquisition and all those things, from which the second motion application and all were picked. So you should choose the questions wisely. So for, if you see the first question was a case law was given a scenario based case law though, and then from that it ran into 3 pages. So many candidates they tend to this are all playing with the examiners' minds. So as I always suggest, you should go to the requirement of the question, and the requirement is the stakeholders suggest that instead of diverting capital and effort to many different areas, company should consolidate the resources. So as the strategy advisor, you could remove this deadlock between management and stakeholder by explaining the difference between full divestiture and equity carve-out. So this is a somewhat straightforward question which is there in your first two chapters. And which one of the above did you suggest to unlock? So this suggestion is also important. So if you see, this will be for 2.5, this will be for 2.5. So next one is, as per the plan suggested by Mr. Agreembaugh, so the company successfully used price of sale process of Fiverr. You as the head of legal department need to draw management's attention towards regulation 11 that mandates to the companies to extinguish and physically destroy the security certificate brought. This is also fairly straightforward question. And in the special team assigned with the task of proposing finalizing a merger, you very well understand there are a host of factors from Ekron. Create a detailed list of factors. The only panic that would have created an examiner's minds is there is always a till last attempt, that is till June 25th, there was always a question on a stamp duty was asked, and also one or two straightforward questions from corporate restructuring will come. So those are the minute deviations that ICAI has done from the usual pattern. So next is, at the time of pre-acquisition of legal due diligence, the scenarios given. So calculate the amount of indemnification asset while doing the acquisition accounting. Also brief the management of the concept and treatment of indemnification asset. So these are all you'll be able to write only if you spent enough time on revision or understood the concept thoroughly. And 2A was on the complaints with the CRA regulations, the non-permissible non-public shareholding norms. So you need to compute, and also you need to brief the provisions for the same. So moving on to the next. So there was an interest transfer of 0.3% between the promoters. The total shareholding of the promoter group did not change. The notice here argued that above mentioned it does not trigger the applicability of either Regulation 3 or 3.1 of takeover regulations. So decide the matter with reference to decided case law. So if you kept on reading, even this question, if you read from the bottom till top 6 to 7 lines, you'll be thinking what is exactly requirement of the question. So that is why if you see the decide the matter, so this question provides related to the case law. Then if you read from the above, it will be very easy. So next one that I was referring to, so who is responsible for filing second motion application and what time that should be filed. All this first to 5 lines is totally not required for you to answer the question. This is straightforward from steps in the process of merger or acquisition, and that liquidator and over with the timeline, all those things are important. Straightforward question provided you studied properly. So next is, under the Companies Act, concept of small company was introduced. You are a large consulting firm, etc., and whether foreign companies qualify as small companies, give reasons for the same. So various scenarios were given. It was fairly expected that amendments will be tested for at least 5 to 10 marks. So and the alternative question was why the Companies Act provides the enabling provision for cross-border mergers. Under such mergers trigger a range of compliance obligations and FEMA and competition. History with the statement explain how this laws regulate the cross-border mergers beyond the provisions of Companies Act. So every attempt, at least one question comes from cross-border, especially with legal prevailing global scenarios and geopolitical things. So there are a lot of chances for this kind of questions. So next is from the accounting aspect, that is comment on the applicability of Ind AS 103 for demerger transaction. This is also a fairly straightforward question. And moving on to the next. So in this case, again, a shareholder, Governor Limited is a company with two classes of equity shareholders. The two classes are given regarding the resolution passed by the board of directors. A group of Class B holding 12% equity challenges the move, citing that varying the rights of classes is not possible. The company argues that changes are necessary for long-term strategic control and investor competence. So, as a legal advisor, minority Class B shareholders critically analyze the legal framework of the company that governing the variation of rights of equity shareholders. So this was also slightly not on the expected lines, but a good question. And Mrs. W, a foreign company, holds 100 shares in Mrs. I Limited, Indian company at 10 per share for last 5 years. And the market value of shares given by transfer the same in case of demerger or another resulting foreign company. Explain how such transaction will be taxed for the purpose of capital gains under Section 45 of Income Tax Act 1961. Excellent question. So this is from the tax aspect, though not from the stamp duty aspect. So next is part 2. Part 2 is usually, if you part 2 and part 1 usually will boost the total in CRVI. So in this case, Section 247 was asked from the valuation aspect, and next is based on the discounted cash flow question, and next is the cost approach of business valuation is useful for asset intensive firms valuing holding companies as well as distressed entities that are not worth more than their overall net tangible. Comment on the statement, discuss the circumstances where the cost approach is used by the valuer for business valuation. So the requirement is briefly elaborate the cost approach and various scenarios in which it will be used. Next is A Limited is considering the acquisition of B Limited. Management estimates that the acquisition will create a synergy. So this is also fairly. So the requirement is determine the consideration paid and acquisition premium. So for a simple straightforward question for mergers, I shared 2 to 3 problems. So if it's day before the exam, if you've seen it, this might you would have got it easily. And next is part 3. The insolvency is very good. Deep conceptually it will be tested. So this was also the case law state that was shared video on the exam day morning regarding the mining rates and the between the government and the company. So next is the state on the material. Next question was the petitioner Manwari acting through his proprietary concern Manwari Photo filed a petition under Section 7 seeking initiation of CRVI against Nubivitu in protect the above disputes arose between. So the various scenario is given. So Nubivitu allegedly failed to honor the repayment obligation, leading the petitioner to issue a demand notice and subsequently filed a petition as again. So the petitioner asserted that the failure to return the deposit constituted default. So in this case, what is you need to brief about the financial debt and also whether it will be eligible to be proceeded under CRVI. So that is the question. So moving on to the next is IBBA has collaborated with Indian banks to fill the auction of assets through eBay. This was based on recent amendments. So comment with reference to IBBA circular date 29th October 2024. State from your supplementary. And next is what are the exceptions to moratorium to Section 1436? Does this provision apply to personal guarantor? This topic is asked every once in 2 attempts like that. So the choice question for 6 was 6A. So in case you study, given more importance to surface E and DRT, you will be able to tackle this question. So the requirement was, as an advisor to DNF, advise the branch manager, the bank can accept the money. I also answered the question explaining the provision of Section 6. We last time Section 617 was asked, now Section 6 from surface E. And next is authorized representative of the agents or trustees of the creditors, class creditors. So the representative must act in accordance with the instructions. So enumerate the role and duty of AR and set out in Section 25A of IBC 2016. And next is IBC Industries, a small manufacturing company, has defaulted on loan repayments. Explain the provisions relating to declaration of moratorium. You see at least 15 marks where emphasis on moratorium, be it PPIRP and normal concepts. So PPIRP also every attempt question is coming. So you can plan your, but if you're planning to leave surface E and PPIP, then you can leave this bunch. So you can plan when you're preparing for the exam, you should factor these things in mind because time management is very, very crucial. Considering only 1 day will be available before the exam, that too if any holiday comes. So moving on to the next last question is. So scenario is given whether in a computation period of limitation, the period in which the operation creditors to proceed against the sue, whether it can be excluded as per Section 22(5) of SICA. And next is whether there was a pre-existing dispute between the parties. So, warranting dismissal of application in section 9 of IBC, decide the matter with reference to a case law. So, this is with regarding to question A. And next is the choice question is what are the relief that may be granted, cross-border insolvency, and next is elucidate the duties of Mr. Yugam under section 54B, and what are the points on which his duties will come to an end. So, this is fairly with regarding to LLP and also with regarding to IBC few amendments. So that's it from the questions. So overall, 45 to 50 was gettable, and with a little bit more efforts you can cross 60. But proper planning and like knowing what not to revise, knowing what to revise, all these things matters in CRVI. So keep these things in mind. Do subscribe so that you'll make full use of it for your June 26 exams. All the best. Keep going, best wishes.